The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Riv after a special council meeting. So, in a nauseating meeting, in an example of why government has to be changed like diapers often, and for the same reason, because they're full of crap. Again, so CJ, why don't you give them your analysis and your spin on...
Well, first off, 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
That's true.
After 3 hours of doing nothing, they did something of doing nothing, if that makes any sense. So here's what happened last night. They spent 3 hours discussing whether it should be approved, disapproved, who's going to pay for it, how it's going to be paid for, do we need a debt exclusion. They were addressing the mayor's veto, which they didn't address because they keep thinking they have 10 days to address the veto. So here's basically what happened in a nutshell. They tabled the decision on the approval or disapproval of the diamond. They then made a motion to pay for the diamond project out of the city budget without a debt exclusion. So they voted for no debt exclusion. Then they get granted leave to withdraw on the ballot, on the question of the ballot, and on the withdrawal for the debt exclusion. So you had a very interesting meeting because after 3 hours, that's what is basically what they came down with. A table, a vote, and a leave to withdraw. And some people are upset about that because they want the vote. Here's where the problem comes in. Diamond doesn't give us a bill as a debt. It's an assessment. And what will happen is if this building is approved, if it's district-wide or by the city, we will get the assessment of $6.5 million plus the educational assessment. So it's not a debt. And as Sean Kadim brought out very clearly, how do you write a bond for this? Because it's not a debt. It's the principal and interest on a debt for another organization. So you can't write a bond for it. So how do you get a debt exclusion for it? That's another question. Because again, the city's not incurring the debt. Diamond is going to give us an assessment on it. And this is something that people keep missing. I'm not against Diamond. And I know Chip's not against Diamond either. We have advocated for vocational training for a long time. We're just not happy with the financing the way the city wanted to do it. Now, Linda Pereira, Sean Kadim, Michelle Dion, and Andrew Raposo all want it to come out of the city budget. And Andrew Raposo asked, can we take it out of the city budget? Seth Atkins said, well, no, we can't. Sean Kadim snapped back with the response that, hey, we've got $100 and some odd million here. 2% of that is this $6.5 million. So we have to cut somewhere. We'll make it work. Joe Camara said, in the entire time that he was on the city council, when they built all those schools, and they built many of them, he said they never once had a debt exclusion, and they always made it work in the budget. So again, they made it work in the budget. So why can't this man make it work in the budget? I'll tell you. I will tell you very clearly why. Because he hires 29 people, gives his friends pay raises up the wazoo, and makes sure that everybody that he likes and that is friends to him gets a job. And that's the problem. We're hiring too many people. Fall River is not an employment agency.
Yeah, well, look, I got so many bones to pick on this. I could have like 175 chickens.
Yeah.
So that's how many bones I got to pick. Number one, let me first say to Michelle Dion for standing up for the voters from the get-go. Brad Kilby was on the right side for a change. I don't know, he must have had an epiphany that, but he talked about having, because he has to consult his family of things, but it's not your family, it's not your personal opinion. You need to talk to the voters. But let me tell you the problem here. Joe Camara, we always made it work. Yeah, we always made it work. We also had a 300-man fire department, a 300-man police department, and we had a higher student population in schools. We had a whole bunch of other things. We also had a whole lot of less high-paid administrators. Because if we look at our budget now, all that money is going to people who are in administrative functions. We've got all kinds of extra positions. The one thing that was not discussed, and I think it was said in passing about making cuts, is controlling our budget. They've never attempted to control our budget. They've never attempted to have one person do the job of one person, not hire 5 other people. And Mr. Kadim insulted every taxpayer, saying that we don't even have a right because we're stupid. We don't understand what a debt override is. He alluded to that fact. Well, we do know what a debt override is because we got one coming. And even if people didn't understand, and believe me, CJ and I do understand what a debt override is.
Yes, we do.
But let me tell you something. Well, you don't understand, Mr. Kadim. You don't understand, apparently, that the real world is not the government. You know, you can call a chicken a duck or a Canadian goose, but it's still a chicken. You have a problem separating government because you love being a government official. You can just run up the bill, whether it's as a city administrator in Fall River that acknowledged the $500 million debt in Boston. And I will say that Linda Pereira was sitting in that room in Boston with me when you did. Or in the town of Seekonk. Because you don't care, because taxpayers pay the money, and you just say, well, if you don't like it, move, like that individual did about Durfee. You don't like the Durfee debt, move out of Fall River. Well, you know something, Mr. Kadim? I know you don't understand reality because with all your financial wizardry, you went bankrupt. Didn't you? You went bankrupt. And you never had a crap job. You were working for Raytheon making big money. Then you came to Fall River and made big money. You were making 5 times more than anybody in the but you went bankrupt. That's the real world. You went bankrupt in a real world, and you don't care if the city goes bankrupt. That's your problem. You don't care about the person who wrote the letter that said they can't live anymore because of the taxes in this city. And they're not going to be able to live their life anymore. People are going to lose their houses. And let me tell you something. You like to pay people like Seekonk because we got a revolving door for employment. Mary Zahadi gets a job in Fall River. She gets a job in Seekonk. You drag 2 people over in Seekonk, give them a job, give them a pay raise in Fall River. Now you drag one of your relatives over to Seekonk and give her a job. That's the problem with government. And you're going to sit there and pontificate and look down your nose with your condescending attitude, telling everybody we don't understand? What you don't understand is you can't compare Seekonk and Westport for jobs. I can't. They wouldn't let me use Seekonk. When I went to the JLMC, I had to be able to prove the city's ability to pay based on its financial condition for cities of our size. Let me tell you something. I just did this morning because that's how pissed off I got watching, talking about this stuff. We all know the newest stat, household income in Fall River is $43,000. So you want to compare it with Seekonk and their minuscule debt with all the taxes you got coming in? Same U.S. Census Bureau that says 43,000 household income. Household income in Seekonk, $90,078. Last time I did math, 43 is less than half of what the household income is in Seekonk. Westport, 79,895. Virtually 80 grand. Round it off. You know, I'll give them the 100. I'll give him the 115 and make it an even 80. Yeah, we should just give it to him. 80 grand, as opposed to 43. Well, we're making people in Fall River for a household make half. Somerset, 84,115, more than half, more than double. Swansea, 86,637. Those are the real numbers. You are comparing apples and oranges. To sit there and say that Fall River can afford this debt and afford all those jobs and never utter a word about controlling spending is disingenuous at best and hypocritical, period. And this is the problem. The voters needed to speak on this issue. You people ignored the voters. You don't want to bring it. You're going to ram it down everybody's throat, and you will pay in the next election. Because in 1995, 5 councilors got bounced. We saw what happened in a recall. I had a conversation about, well, I don't think that can ever happen again because these people are always at the top of the ticket. So let me explain something to you. In 1995, when 5 councilors got bounced, they were not 5 councilors at the bottom 5. They were councilors at the top to the middle. They were not low-hanging fruit. They got eliminated. The Portuguese Mafia got eliminated. Steve Camara, president of the city council, always near the top of the ticket. Linda Pereira, always and sometimes topping the ticket. John Medeiros, always near the top of the ticket. Al Alves, always mid to top. John Alberto, medium to bottom. All 5 of those people. And you know why they got bounced? The same people that always put them in at the top of the ticket, the Portuguese community, bounced them. And when the Portuguese community and the people, the regular people in Fall River get their bills, you are going to be gone in the next election. You are going to be gone for your insensitivity to reality. Don't give me that Seekonk crap. I don't want to hear Seekonk crap. You pay people in Fall River what the market can bear. Capitalism says you charge what the market bears. That's for rents, that's for salaries. And when I go to the JLMC in the real world, if I bring in Seekonk, Westport, Swansea, they'll go, what are you, nuts? You're comparing yourself with a tiny, how many people on the Seekonk Fire Department? I know at one time they didn't even work. It wasn't really a real fire department. They weren't a 24/7 department. They used to work Monday through Friday. And on weekends they had volunteers. So you're going to compare Somerset with a $84,000 per a household income that's got a fire department of what, 35 people? A police department of 35 people? The fire department budget in Fall River is bigger than the entire Somerset town budget. You're going to compare those things and have the audacity to kind of just, hey, they're stupid. They don't know what this means. We can afford it. No, we can't afford the 29 jobs that CJ was talking about. We can't afford the $40,000 pay raises, the $16,000 pay raises, the deans of students. They're bringing another guy back now into DCM. And they're going to pay him. And I found out this morning, you know where he works now?
Where?
You talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. Remember we always talk about that newspaper article from like 15 or 20 years ago?
He works in New Bedford now.
He was a worker.
Yeah.
So where did he go? If you're a worker, what did that article say?
Go to New Bedford.
He was making more money as a worker, as an regular employee.
Yep.
Now he's going to get a supervisory job. Where's he coming?
Fall River.
Back to Fall River. There you go. Not much has changed in 20 years. If you're an administrator or you're politically connected, come to work in Fall River because we'll compare your salary with any way we can to justify giving you money. Well, guess what? People in Fall River can't afford it. People are going to lose their houses. Elderly people, young people who are scratching to try to make a living, have children, and don't have a $200,000 a year job, and to have the unmitigated gall to ignore the Constitution of the state of Massachusetts and to forget you are answerable to us and our substitutes And to then ignore the city ordinance in Fall River and say, we will not put this on the ballot, you should all, actually, they should recall your butts.
Well, the thing is, they didn't say they weren't going to put that question on the ballot. They said they weren't going to put the debt exclusion on the ballot. The debate around that was, does City Ordinance 2-1301, I think it is, or 3101, does that require it go on the ballot for this assessment? And, Diamond wanted to keep saying it was an assessment. I'm just presenting the argument that was presented.
That drives me, semantics. That's what government is great at, semantics. Don't give me that crap. Assessment, we'll call it an assessment. We don't have to abide by the law. That's like when you go through a divorce and they attach your pension. They make you get a quadro and you got to pay a ton of money, more than you were paying before in alimony when you're retired and you're on a fixed income. And then you ask your lawyer, why do I have to pay more when I'm making less? And you know what the lawyer tells you? Well, the government doesn't consider that a pay. They consider that an asset. So now you get an asset into sure. That's right. Because that's semantics. So we're going to make it an assessment. It's an assessment. You know something? You can call my gas bill, my electric bill, anything you want. It's a damn bill. And when the taxpayers of Fall River get it in their tax, it's a tax bill. I don't give a damn how they try to cover it with their nice semantic little twists and turns. Let's be frank. The guy that's getting at less than $25,000, because that's a median, less than $25,000, living on that can't pay his rent, that can't buy food, can't afford gas. That's the other thing. $5,000 this year. They're already estimating every family is going to pay more for inflation. And it hasn't even hit high gear yet.
Yep.
So,
and gasoline's already over $4.
Their total disregard for the average Fall River citizen was on total display last night. And the only person that stood up and has stood up, Brad Kilby was on the right side for once. But Michelle Dion, and kudos to Michelle Dion, she stood up and she continues to stand up for the taxpayers. And I don't care. Yeah, we might be able to afford it. But are we going to afford it by eliminating the 28 new jobs that we just put on? No. Are we going to lay off the people who are getting the big salaries? No. Here we go again. Fire, police, services, your services. That's when you got to rise up and demand that this doesn't happen. And I'll tell you, shame. It is a travesty to it was a CJ, I have to commend you. I got to get you a piece of chocolate cake from Greg's or something, because for you to sit through the entire meeting, that was, I don't know how any human being, that's worse than a Chinese water torture.
It was terrible. It was horrid. It really was horrid. But then I hear things from Sean Kadim saying, well, we need to change the government in Fall River. If you want the voters to have a say, you need to change the government. You need to make this where you don't have a mayoral and city council run city. You've got to make it so that you have selectmen, so that the voters have to vote on everything at a town meeting. That's what you need. So let's change the government.
You can't have selectmen in the city.
That's what he wants.
This is a city, not a town. Mm-hmm. This is a town. And what we need is a Class E charter.
Right.
What we need is a city manager.
Right.
Sean Kadim is, you want the voters to vote on everything. That's his con. Well, you know something, Sean? You don't understand crap, because obviously you don't understand. You always talk about Seekonk. You can't compare that. It's apples and oranges. Look at the incomes. Look at the ability to pay. But you don't care about that, because you are exactly what they say. You were born to be a government bureaucrat. You do not want the voters to speak. No, you're right. We got to change the government. We got to change the city council. We don't need selectmen. I want a councilor in there that will listen to the people. And when he sees a debt this big, he doesn't even have to ask me. he or she will say what Michelle Dion said. No, this has got to go before the voters. That's what I want. We don't need the... those idiot voters that don't understand what a debt override is, those idiot voters that don't understand anything, let them come to me, the guy who went bankrupt, to tell them how to run the city. Well, guess what? You couldn't run your own damn finances, but now all of a sudden you're the oracle at Delphi about how to spend money. That's it. Everybody bow at the oracle of Delphi. You know, you are full of crap. You've always been full of crap, and you're a condescending, arrogant person. Period.
Just tell me how you really feel. As I bow to the oracle of Delphi. Oh God, this is going to be an emotional issue, because already this morning I heard the phone calls. An 80-year-old woman called, and you would think she would say, don't go with the Diamond Project. She called and says, I'm all for Diamond. My grandchildren are going to Diamond. I will make it work. I will make it work in my budget. I'm all for it. Okay, you're lucky. Maybe you get a good pension. Maybe you got
maybe she lives in public housing and doesn't have any bills.
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. But she's the exception rather than the rule.
Exactly.
Because people don't look. I represent 2,500 city retirees. The average median income there, the newer retirees have more money. The average median income is $22,000 a year. They're paying $5,000 more to live today with inflation. So now, we are already down to $17,000 gross. Those people cannot live. Those people, nobody, it's like, I support Diamond. Look, I don't care. I heard a guy, actually I listened a little bit this morning, and I heard a guy say, listen, he said, in a real world, you might want to buy a new car. But if you got a whole bunch of bills and you go out and buy a new car, you're stupid. Well, there's a time and place for everything. The problem with these hypocrites, they're like the federal government, is all they want to do is spend money and say how dumb we are, yet they never control their own spending. It's like, let us continue to spend like wild men, and Kadeem was right. We need to change government. We need to get his cheeks right out of that council chamber. He loves Seekonk so much, move there. Spend their money, and you do, and they got plenty of money to spend. But the people of Fall River don't, and he should be the first one to go.
Well, in all fairness, we have been fighting our form of government for a long time.
That's right. We've been wanting a typing charter for years.
And with Sean Kadeem saying change the charter, then guess what? He was right there. I mean, he is right there. Change the charter.
Yeah.
And, but again, it is our fault. We are stupid. You know why we're stupid?
We don't vote.
Because we keep electing these people and we don't go out and vote. And that's why we're stupid. And we can't have an argument that they're not doing what we want, because guess what? They're doing what they were told to do. Nobody cared to access the voters, the voting polls. Nobody wanted to access the politicians. Nobody wanted to say a word. So they're doing exactly what they want to do, and that's what they're going to do until the voters turn around and say, no, we're not going to tolerate that. This is what's going to happen.
And you're right. And look, obviously the charter needs changing. It's a disaster. They had to wait 10 days to act on the veto, which means they couldn't even deal with it at this meeting. So, a charter needs to change, but the fact is, we don't need to change. It would be much better and much more efficient as a Type E charter. Obviously, I think we need a city manager who is solely responsible for the economic condition of the city, and then you can fire his butt if he's not running his city properly. But the fact is that, look, we don't need to change the government. What we need to do is change the council. We need more people like Michelle Dion and Andrew Raposo, who are now looking at the taxpayers. We need people who are going to say, look, this is a non-starter. This kind of money is a non-starter. Sean Kadeem likes to generalize, and this way it trivializes this debt. So it's not about that. It's them stupid voters. Imagine the voters in a republic, a democratic republic, actually wanting the right to weigh in on a subject. They elected us. We are now the monarchs. He doesn't even know the Constitution. He is not the boss. He takes umbrage at the fact that the people get to speak? How dare they want to? What do they want to do? Have us ask them every time? Well, guess what? If you give me a vote and say, vote for a guy who never wants to consult you after he's elected, he's going to run the government his way, or somebody that's going to call you up at home every day and ask you about every issue, I'll take the guy that's going to call me up, because I elected him to represent me, not himself. And that's the problem. The problem is these people don't care. They don't care. And Joe Camaro, we built all those schools. Actually, I was on the Education 2000 committee. Joe doesn't know this, of the Fall River Regional Task Force that drew the plans for all those schools that were built. I was on that committee. I was on the executive board of that committee with Rita Moniz and Joe Feidelberg, and we were the people who got all those schools, drew up the plans to build all those schools. It was a different Fall River then. We didn't have, it was a Fall River that would throw out people when they behaved like this council. It was a Fall River that would not elect any mayor that continued to raise taxes year after year. It was a Fall River that now the people who threw those people out are now living in the Somerset with its $84,000, Seekonk with its 90, Somerset, Swansea with its 86. So that's the problem. You know, it is not the same. You go back in time, and let's do a ratio and proportion. So this is outrageous. Yeah, am I heated? You're damn right. I'm sick and tired of seeing debt upon debt upon debt upon debt piled on the people, because I represent the people who have the least ability to pay, and I know the impact that this is going to have on them. And it is just reprehensible the way they talk about people and the way they think. If you don't like it, move to Russia. If you don't like it, move out of the city. Where are they going to move? They can barely afford to live in Fall River. Are they going to move to one of these other communities where the cost of living is double? Are you people insane? That was a rhetorical question.
It's interesting because I was listening to somebody, I think it was this morning, who turned around and said that Fall River taxes are the lowest taxes in the region. Maybe physically, maybe accurately, they're the lowest taxes, but proportionately, they're not.
Yeah. Well, you know, a while back they did have a study. What they did was they took the tax rate and its ratio ratio and proportion to the income.
Right.
And we were one of the highest tax communities in the state of Massachusetts, because, you know, if you say, well, you guys are only paying $4 for a hamburger in Fall River and it's $8 in Newton, well, when you got a household income of $25,000, a $4 hamburger's pretty expensive. If you're making $165 like they do in Newton, a $4 hamburger's really, really cheap. So that's why, even though their tax rate is $8, it's not as much as a $4 hamburger to a guy that's making 20 grand. So they don't understand it. That's their old con, and people believe that. And you're right. The voters don't educate themselves. And you know something? I'm heated on this one.
Oh, and as we've said before, you know, when this debt exclusion came up for Durfee, we knew people didn't know what they were voting for. They thought they were voting for the process of a new Durfee. They didn't think they were voting on a debt exclusion.
That's right.
They just couldn't separate the two, just like they're doing with Diamond. They can't separate the two.
That's right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my impersonation of who? Nancy Pelosi and Brandon. Go get them! That's the city council.
Oh, well, we don't have enough time on this show sometimes, I'm telling you now. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable, and have a great weekend.